Hey, good morning. I'm Randy, a cheap audio man. How are you? I hope you had a great night last night. Come on in. Let's have some coffee. Okay, it's very full. Let's have some coffee and talk about audio. Last night was Halloween for me. Just a lot of fun. Kids had a lot of fun. You don't want to hear about my kids. You want to hear about the Emotiva BasX. I like to say BasX. Some people say BasX. BasX A-100 and the BasX TA-100. So what are they? This is an integrated amp. This is just an amp. What are the prices? This is $230 US. This is $400 or $399. Technically, this one's $239. I'm going to say $230 and $400. Just leave it as that. So, what are their specs? For a while, I thought these actually shared the same amplifier, and they very may well. But there is a little bit of difference on the output. So this one is 50 into 8, 90 into 4. This one is 50 into 8, 80 into 4. Let's look at the signal noise ratio. All right. 115 dB, 110 dB. So they're very similar. And they actually sound very similar. They both sound really good. Really good. Really, really, really good. They're both dynamic, clear. I don't really know how much. I mean, I do know amplifiers influence soundstage and imaging. I think most of the time majority of the time it's speakers. I will say though that I made this little Class D amp with two ice power modules. And the soundstage was big on that thing. It didn't sound great though. I mean, the mid-range was flat, but the soundstage was huge. So I'm gonna walk that back. Amps can affect and will affect soundstage. These are both good. I mean, I don't see a huge difference between these and the Anthem Integrated 225, the Denon PMA 600NE, or the Moon. They're better than the Moon by Sim Audio. Everything's better than the Moon by Sim Audio. Okay, so this one's 230, this one's 400. So what do you get? These are kind of different tools for different purposes. If you've looked at any of the reviews on the BasX A-100, you'll probably know that it can be configured to quite possibly be the most powerful headphone amplifier ever known to man. You can put a jumper in and basically get 50 watts. I can't remember what the impedance is. I think it's maybe 50 watts into 32 ohms. I bet it tells us. Or maybe 16 ohms, or I don't know. It's gonna tell us somewhere. And anyway, it's a lot, and it's more than you'll ever need on any planet, and it's more than enough to fry any headphone that you have on the planet. Any headphone. Any headphone. Actually, it'd fry these guys. These are the Fostex T40RP that I started to modify. I have different earpads in them. Anyway, made a little comfort strap all by myself. Looks great. I think I have a future in making comfort straps for Fostex. Anyway, it'll drive the heck out of these things. And those are difficult headphones to drive. I'm really interested in this now. I'm the wrong part. Anyway, it'll give you more power than you ever possibly need it into your headphone. To the point where it says, like, do this with caution. We don't take any responsibility. Perform this at your own risk. And it includes the jumpers. So you're you're basically bypassing the resistors that go into the headphone output. So we talked about the similarities. They have a very similar power output. What are the differences? Well, the BasX A-100 does not have a remote control. The integrated one does have a remote control. This one has a DAC. This one has a phono preamp, which is very good in my opinion. This has 2 sub outs and a preamp out. This one has an output, which I think is a preamp output. I don't think it's fixed, so it's variable. So when you turn the volume up on this, your output goes up in voltage. So they both sound great. It's going to come down to your use case scenario. If you already have, let's say, a DAC, and if you have a DAC with a remote control, even better. If you already have a DAC with a remote control, you already have a preamp, or a phono preamp if you have a phono, and you want the baddest, toughest headphone amp on the planet, then get this one. It also is, it's not wide, but it is deep. But you can put it on the side like that. And there's a very famous YouTuber that does that and uses kind of this as a reference headphone amp for really ridiculous hard to drive headphones. They both have auto on, so if they sense a signal, they'll turn on. And they have triggers in and out. This weighs about 12 pounds. Ugh. This weighs about 15 pounds. And I talked about this yesterday when I did the video on comparing the Emotiva BasX TA-100 to the Denon PMA 600NE. And I like this one better, mostly because the phono amp sounds awesome and it has preamp outputs, which means you can hook this up to a power amp later. Technically, I guess you could do the same thing with this one, but I don't really know why you'd want to, because this isn't really a preamp. You don't have a bunch of stuff going into it. This one has a DAC, 3 inputs, and something interesting I found is that the USB input actually is limited to 24-bit 96 kilohertz, whereas the optical and the coax are 24 up to 192, which is interesting to me because normally the USB can play higher resolutions. So what's the use case on this? Well, if you don't have a DAC, if you don't have a phono amp, this is more like maybe a desktop solution, or you could put it next to your television or something, and just set the volume. So what you do if you had an external DAC is you take the external DAC up to probably 75% of its volume range. And some people will say 100%. No, don't do that, because the SMSL M300 Mark II, the volume goes up to from 0 to 50. And I actually was messing around with some stuff and I hooked it up to a DSP that actually has a clipping indicator, and anything above 40, I mean 43, 44 really starts to clip, but anything above 40 will clip. So be careful depending upon what DAC you're hooking up to this, if you're hooking a DAC up to it. Anyway, so take your DAC volume up to 75% and then take this and crank it up to as loud as you possibly want to hear it, and then leave that volume there and then run the volume off your DAC. And then you have a remote control and however many digital inputs you have. That'll work for digital. If you have a DAC, it won't work for any analog. Although, I mean, I guess you could get something like this, which is a volume pot, and basically an input switcher, and you could do something like that for your analogs. But when you just have an analog volume pot, it's messing with the resistance, which messes with your signal, which introduces distortion. So anyway, you can do that, but you don't have to. But the point is, if this is 230, this is like 60 bucks, or volume pot would probably be like 40 or 50, 60 bucks. And then you have a DAC on top of that, then you're really getting probably pricier than this one. But if you already have those things, you want an awesome headphone amp, then get this one at 230 bucks. If you don't, get this one. And this one really sounds good. I'm very impressed with this one. I talked about it yesterday, but it has phono preamp, 2 other analogs. It has 2 sub outs, both summed. And I didn't know they were summed. I thought they were one out that was both channel, but you can actually hook up 2 subs. And then it has the preamp out, which I really like. FM tuner, which I'll never use. And then a Bluetooth dongle USB receptacle. But again, as I said in the comparison against the Denon, I wouldn't buy theirs because theirs is an aptX only codec. And if you want to learn about Bluetooth codecs, watch my video on the Topping BC3 Bluetooth receiver. That's what I'd buy because it's $60 and you get all codecs, including AAC. So if you have an Apple phone and you want to get the best audio out of the Apple, you need something with AAC. Otherwise, it's going to default to SBC, and it's not nearly as good. Do they have their quirks? Really, this one doesn't, because I mean, it is what it is. It's just a power amp. It's nice. I mean, everything, these are very well built. And as I said in the Denon video, watch that one because Emotiva doesn't go to market like the typical hi-fi brands. So in my opinion, you're getting way more for your money. The TA-100 is making me rethink the Anthem integrated 225, which is no longer available, but in its day it was a $2,000 integrated amp and has the Anthem 225 amplifier built into it, which is a $2,000 power amp. So back in the day, you're getting a preamp for free, basically. And that thing's awesome. But this thing is really good too. I mean, really, really good. It reminds me a lot of the Anthem. And I called the Denon PMA 600 NE the Anthem's little brother. Well, that would have been the Anthem's youngest brother. This would be the Anthem's younger brother who's older than the Denon, if that makes sense. It's just really good. It's quirky as heck on the menus and getting into the tone controls and things like that. I didn't find that I needed them. I just used it as is. So if you add in, let's say, $100 phono preamp, and in my opinion, this sounds better than a $100 phono preamp. If you added that to this, it would be $330. If you added a $100 DAC to that, that'd be $430. And I would argue that this sounds better than a $100 DAC. Maybe not. I don't know. It sounds good. It sounds as good. I wouldn't say it sounds better than the SML or the Topping DACs that I reviewed, but it sounds really good. Anyway, you're up to $430, and then taking into consideration that this doesn't have any remote control, the integrated is the better value. However, if you already have all that stuff and you want an incredible headphone amp, then the BasX A-100 is the better value. I'm definitely keeping the integrated. I'm going to talk to Emotiva and see if I can return this, which I'm sure I can, considering I just got them. But they both sound great. I think they're both high value. Which one you get is depending upon what your use case scenario is. Both can be hooked up to an external amp, but they're both quite powerful on their own. So that's it. I hope you had a good morning. I didn't even drink any of my coffee. It was very hot though, so it probably is the perfect temperature now. Yep, that's the perfect temperature. So I'm actually going to try to start editing these things and like doing, they call it B-roll, where I show like all the outputs and the inputs and the beautiful face plates and stuff like that. I don't even know if you can see this. The camera is supposed to focus automatically. Whether it does that, I don't know. Until I actually watch the video. This feels heavier than 15 pounds. Maybe it's because I'm weak. I'm a weak man. So I hope you liked the video. If you did, please like it. If you didn't, please like it. If you didn't like it, please subscribe. If you did like it, please subscribe. Tell all your friends about me. Because I want to do this a lot. Right now, I'm buying all this stuff with my own money, which is great because it benefits me as well. How it benefits you is you get to know my opinion. Is my opinion right? No, everyone has an opinion. But I will say what's most important to me is the enjoyment of my music. One thing I forgot to mention yesterday in the video was how much this made me enjoy the music. This morning, I just sat back and I listened to a record. I didn't think about what is this doing better, what is this doing worse. And when I switch into the I'm just enjoying the music mode, to me that's kind of a litmus test for I've found the right product. This one made me do that. This one kind of did, except that, you know, I had to switch out all the inputs and stuff. And I based them, I A-B'd them using the topping, it's over there, the topping BC3 LDAC Bluetooth receiver, which is really good because you're getting a full functioning streamer for $60. You're not actually getting a streamer, you're getting a Bluetooth receiver, and then this becomes your streamer. And then you don't have to worry about, does it take Tidal, does it take Spotify, does it take Amazon HD, does it take Qobuz, does it have a music, you know, server interface, does it take internet radio? Because anything that this can do, now your hi-fi can do, which is great. 60 bucks, it's the best deal out there. 60 bucks, don't go buy a streamer, go buy that. And actually, the funny thing is about that, is you'll actually get better resolution out of that than some streamers. And you'll get a better interface because you're using your app, as in Amazon, Spotify, or whatever. So, I hope you enjoyed this. Please watch my other videos. And we can take this journey together. The audio journey. Not an audio file, audio enjoyment. So, have a great day.